Yo, I'm Bob. Into Marvel, happen to be totally blind since birth, talking about Spider-Man the Animated Series, Season 2, Episode 5, or Episode 18 of the series overall. This one's Neogenic Nightmare Chapter 5, Mutant's Revenge, and it premiered on October 7th in 1995. There are spoilers ahead, so watch the episode before watching this review, or naturally, you gonna get spoiled. That being said, jumping right in, and you were warned. It was torture. Not the episode. It was fantastic. Having to wait a week to see how everything shook out back in the day. That was torture. I don't know if I should publish this one. Maybe I should do another take. You know what? I'm just going to keep going. Yes, waiting a week after the Hobgoblin threw that pumpkin bomb at Spider-Man and Wolverine was just nuts. I rewatched the thing. I rewatched the episode that I'd recorded, I don't know how many times within the week, because this was something that just kept blowing my mind every time I watched it, because it was just fantastic to see characters from two TV shows that, I mean, I was a huge fan of, and crossing over in this two-part event. I think my only critique about this two-part is that I wish it could have been three. It's 40 minutes and then we're done. But I still had a great time with it. So yeah, the episode begins with the pumpkin. Well, it misses them. I think it knocks them back a little bit from what I remember my brother describing. And Wolverine and Spider-Man are fine, of course, because, well, I mean, they have to be. You can't take these characters out on a Fox Kids TV show. It's just not to be done, of course. Hobgoblin is so crafty, though. I like how I think I'm remembering this right. He manages to cause a glitch in one of Landon's security cameras. My brother and I watched these quite a bit because I taped them off of TV, and I actually had them on VHS. I think it had the entire animated series of Spider-Man and X-Men on VHS at one point. But yeah, he causes a glitch in one of the security cameras, and you have missile launchers coming online. And good old Leewald, who quote unquote works for Landon, he fires the missiles, and they of course manage to, well, I would say Wolverine manages to avoid them, but he actually gets hit. He heals pretty quickly. I don't know if he just got hit by some missile flak or whatever, but apparently not bad enough to knock him out for a bit. I mean, of course, that healing factor of his does, of course, I mean, work miracles. So he's fine. He tells Spider-Man, "No, I don't need you to look at my wounds. I heal real quick." I love how calm Beast is throughout part one and part two. He's mostly focused on Genevieve, who, well, of course, he's already figured out that she's a mutant, and I think it's the way that she's talking about how to be a mutant is to be cursed. She also lets him know that, well, she knows he's the one responsible for the beginnings of the formula that Landon is now, well, I guess Landon thinks he's perfecting it. But I think we had a flashback. I don't know what we're seeing in the flashback because no audio description is available for these older shows. Maybe that'll change someday. But as Beast is talking about how filled with anger he was as a younger man, I always thought that we probably saw him maybe after he progressed his own mutation. I don't know if he's burning things down to get rid of the formula so nobody else will try to repeat the process, but of course here Landon is. I'm sure he sneakily made notes or whatever. Now, of course, he saved everything on a single computer. He should have made backups, though, because Hobgoblin, sneaky sneak that he is now on the Brand Corporation premises, and he's having a ball. I think Mark Hamill always has a ball when he's playing a villain. I don't know for sure. I heard that, whenever he would do his villain roles, he would kind of stand. Like, he wouldn't be sitting down when he would be doing Joker. So I would imagine when he was doing his Hobgoblin performance. He was probably standing up in the studio too and cackling like a maniac. That must have been something to watch. I wonder if there actually are recordings of him really getting into his performances, because that would be something to add an audio description track to. Like, what are his facial expressions, I wonder, and what kind of hand gestures is he doing, if he does any? I don't know how he looks when he really gets into it, but I have no doubt, no trouble imagining that he really has fun with these characters, and rightly so, because he's a really big fan of comics and sci-fi stuff. So it's really awesome that he was able to come in and do more Hobgoblin in this two-parter. It's one of my favorite characters. And yeah, you put Spider-Man and the X-Men together, you introduce a villain like Herbert Landon, but you have to have a wild card, someone who really shakes things up, and that is the ever-chaotic Hobgoblin. And he's able to find the computer containing all of the information about the mutant genetic code, and he transfers that data like really fast to a CD-ROM. I mean, this computer has to be a 90s marvel, no pun intended, of technology, because this guy does it in seconds. And then he just unleashes his Hobgoblin computer virus into the system. And I love how he's managed to make the syntho voice sound like his. I always thought that it was, somehow a screen reader that he doctored up to sound like himself. Of course, it's Mark doing a computerized Hobgoblin voice, but he does it so creepily hilarious. And it's one of my favorite parts where it says, your computer's data has just been deleted by the Hobgoblin computer virus. And of course, he's on his merry way. You've got Wolverine and Spider-Man just running around the Brand Corporation, knocking out guards. And I like how Wolverine is beginning to trust Spider-Man. Spider-Man has decided to, it's no question. He's going with Wolverine to save Beast. He feels, I think, responsible for Beast somehow being there. Somehow he feels responsible for that, of course. That's Spider-Man. He feels like he needs to save everyone. So I like how he's going with Logan, and Logan is gradually warming up to this kid throughout episode 2 of the two-parter, as they're making their way through the Brand Corporation. They're avoiding missiles, they're avoiding guards. You've got that crazy scene where they finally make it to the lab. You've got Wolverine who's manhandling Landon there for a bit, if I remember my brother's description of this episode. Hobgoblin busts in, and that's when things really get crazy. You've got Wolverine jumping at the cage with Beast in it, and of course we're all reminded that the bars are electrified. Wolverine is painfully reminded that the bars are electrified. And apparently the voltage has been increased since Beast touched it. I think Beast manages to grab onto Logan before he falls into the vat of mutant annihilating chemical yuck. Maybe I should call it Mr. Yuck. I don't know. That seems like a good name for the chemicals. I don't know. Landon should have called it Mr. Yuck. So yeah, you've got them, and they're just attempting to stay aloft through not a lot of the second act, but it's a pretty good bit as to, these guys trying to keep from falling into the chemicals. You got Spider-Man who's somehow holding the entire cage up, and Beast is trying to hold Wolverine up. In the meantime, you've got Landon who's trying to chase Hobgoblin to get the CD-ROM back with all of his information of the mutant code. And Hobgoblin is always one to try to make a profit, because now he's got the information. He wants Landon to pay him who knows how much for the CD. He's like, how much is it worth to you? And Landon is, of course, going gun happy. He's found, I guess, one of the guards' guns, and he's trying to fire at Landon as Landon's trying to fire at Hobby. And I'm like, man, you're in your lab. You might hit something which could cause major damage. But okay, Landon's a really good shot with that weapon, though. I don't think he hits Well, he doesn't hit Hobgoblin, but I don't think he takes out any of the equipment either. This guy must practice on a shooting range or something. It was one of my favorite scenes because, yeah, Landon is a scientist, but at the same time, he really knows his way around a weapon.
Pause video recording button. Space.
We get to see a little bit more of Kingpin because Leewald is, of course, working for him the entire time. And yeah, Kingpin has a spy on Landon's in Landon's corporation, as he admitted in the previous episode. So Leewald has been doing what he needs to do there and informing Kingpin about everything. And he's like, hey, you know, the mutants are broken in. Things are just nuts. Hobgoblins wiped out everything. Landon never really intended to make you super mutants, and Kingpin's like, yeah, well, just go ahead and get out of there. I don't need any more spies on this premises. And Smythe, being Smythe, I love where he's like, well, I told you not to trust Landon. I don't know what Kingpin's doing. I would imagine he probably grabbed Smythe, or he might be grabbing the hover chair, Smythe's hover chair, and he's like, you know what? I'm having a bad day. I don't need your mouth. So if you don't wise up, I'm going to take my frustrations out on you. I'm paraphrasing, of course. But yeah, when Kingpin is in one of these moods, I would imagine you probably don't rub his nose in his own mistakes here. And that's of course what Smythe is doing. So yeah, we don't really get a lot of Kingpin and Smythe in this two-parter, but I like that they're in it. And, you know, Kingpin has seen the work that Landon is doing. And I like how Kingpin has, well, he's undoubtedly stored this information away for future use, because Landon, you know, even though he is sneaky, even though he is a tricky guy, Kingpin still has use for him, as we'll see in season 3 of Spider-Man. So you have Landon, of course, as Hobgoblin says, he's immersed in his own work because he eventually winds up falling into the chemical agent, which is supposed to destroy all mutants. Hobgoblin loses the CD-ROM. It falls into the chemicals. I think Landon's probably grabbing onto Hobgoblin at this point, trying to get the disc back. And I think when Hobgoblin loses the disc, Landon lets go of Hobgoblin. I guess he's trying to grab the disc. He falls into the juice. And, ooh, yeah, right when I saw this for the first time, I was thinking, yeah, this is not going to go well for this guy. He's probably going to turn into something. Because the stuff was designed to destroy mutants. And then, of course, you have Landon climbing out of the vat, and then he mutates into this, I don't know what it is. I always wanted the action figure, though. I think my brother said that this creature had a bunch of arms. It would have probably had to have been like 10 inches or 12 inches tall, because as it would absorb electricity to stop its chronic pain, it would grow. So I was like, yeah, they should make like all kinds of different size versions of this thing. You could have a 6-inch version, and then you could have like a 12-inch version, and then you could like have all these electrical effects that could shoot off of it. I was just my my 12-year-old mind trying to come up with a Toy Biz action figure that would incarnate Herbert Landon's mutant form. We never got one. We never even got a Landon human action figure either. But I always wanted one because he was a cool character, and of course he shows up again. Then you have the X-Men, the rest of the X-Men showing up, and they figure out a way to short circuit the physioelectric energy. And I guess when they're able to short circuit this field of energy, Landon's mutation will be reversed. They have to align two antennae to get it adjusted to the same frequency as the energy that's going throughout the creature's body. If they can do that, I guess it shuts the thing off and he's demutated. Well, it really doesn't work for poor Landon. I mean, it works halfway, if I remember my brother's description right. But yeah, you've got Rogue, Gambit, Jubilee, Storm. They all show up. I wish they'd been in this two-parter more. I love Wolverine and Beast, but this is why I wish we could have gotten a third episode. I don't really know what you could have done with a third episode. But I love seeing Spider-Man working with the X-Men. And I feel like, too, it's a fantastic ride. It's a really fast roller coaster ride. I give it a 10 out of 10, automatically did when I watched it for the first time. But now I'm like, man, I wish we could have gotten more of this. And we do get a bit more of it in season 5. In a way, we do get a bit of it in Secret Wars, a 3-parter toward the end of the series. So yeah, you've got Genevieve, who reveals to everyone toward the end of the episode that she is indeed a mutant. She stops the Blackbird from crashing because they're trying to keep Landon up, and he's too heavy, as he is, a pretty big mutant at this point. He's absorbed a lot of electricity, and then of course he's demutated, but only halfway. I don't think I figured that out until a later episode of Spider-Man. Spoilers ahead if you haven't seen the later episodes, just kind of warning you now. He does mention wanting to find a cure for his mutation, as he and Kingpin are attempting to do something with a certain vampire at one point. So Landon verbally lets the audience know that he still has mutant traits, but I mean, nobody said anything about it until, I do believe it's season 4, Partners in Danger. So I had no idea that he still was kind of, well, he didn't look so good. My brother, I think, compared him to Two-Face. I don't know if, like, one of his eyes was like massive. I don't know if he had maybe an additional arm growing out of his back or something. I still don't know. I just remember my brother being like, well, best I can describe is Two-Face. I mean, we were like, what was it, 12 and, no, I was like 13 and he was like 10 or 9 when I was, we were watching the 2 episodes on VHS. So yeah, you have Spider-Man and Wolverine at the end of the episode. And I really like this scene because Wolverine has pretty much welcomed Spider-Man into the fold. And I like how he says, no matter what problems you got or what mistakes you've made, you have friends if you need them. And I mean, it takes a lot to get Wolverine to, well, come close to admitting that he likes somebody. And, to hear Logan saying that, hey, you've got friends if you need them. I mean, Spider-Man must have really made a good impression on Logan. Of course, he saved Beast's life. Wolverine trusts him now. He knows that Spider-Man will put his life on the line for, well, pretty much anybody. And I like that ending. It was a really nice way to remind Spider-Man too that he has friends that he can turn to. So that's what, gets him to head to Mariah Crawford's current lab. I'm not sure where she's set up, but she's leaving for Africa in 3 days. So he doesn't really have a lot of time for her to figure out what's going on with him. And I like how he lets her know at the end of the episode that, well, I was reminded that I need to turn to my friends. And, it's such a great way to end this 2-parter. I was glad that this one didn't end on a cliffhanger. But the next 3 episodes, I mean, oh boy, they grab you and they don't let you go until the 3rd episode ends. So next time we're going to be talking about Neogenic Nightmare Chapter 6, Morbius. No, not the movie. The wonderful movie that I've heard a lot of people poking fun at. I only saw it once. I thought it was okay, but I mean, I like his portrayal in the animated series better. But yeah, we're going to be talking about the episode Morbius, not the movie. Maybe I'll get around to rewatching that at some point. But I really love what they did with the character in the animated series and can't wait to get into that. So yeah, next weekend, like a couple of weeks after Halloween, I'm going to be talking about vampires. So be here for Morbius. Blah! Until then.
Stop taking video.